This is one of the most advanced 4K triple laser projectors available on the planet right now. It's the AWOL Vision. This is the LTV-3500, and I do have to say, it's exceptional. From unbelievable brightness and color accuracy to 3D technology, this thing ticks every box. Now, inside the box you've got the usual, but the thing that I want to concentrate on is the actual projector itself. In my opinion, this is the best looking laser projector on the market right now, with one very, very minor exception. I do wish they'd have grayed out the logo on the front. I think that would have been a little bit more classy, but guys, I am literally trying to pick holes with this thing because there's not much else I can say bad about it. Inside the box you get a quick startup guide and also a far more comprehensive user manual. There's also batteries for the remote, which isn't backlit sadly, but I think it does look really good. And it's got all of the functions, very quick access. It's made of plastic, but it does look like it's metal, and it's got a nice little pattern on the reverse. There's also a couple of the cables, which is nice. This also comes with a Fire Stick, and that's because on the back of this thing there's a little compartment for it. The ports on the back include an optical audio, a USB, an Ethernet port and two HDMI, one of which is HDMI eARC, which is a really nice touch. That little compartment on the back houses a Fire Stick easily, but it will also support other types of stick as well, because they have made it quite large. Now, turning this thing on, put your sunglasses on, because this thing, 3500 lumens, is bright. When I mean bright, it is unbelievably bright. This is by far the brightest projector laser 4K that I've looked at. The window is open, as you can see, the blind is up, and it is still pumping out an unbelievable amount of light. Better than I've ever seen on anything else. It really is that noticeable. The projector has an Android operating system, but it's a fairly basic one, which I don't mind at all. I like the fact that you can find everything very easily, and I'll show you more about that in a moment. But if you choose, you can have this booting straight into an HDMI port. So I've got it now booting into the Fire Stick, which we've just put in the back of the projector. And then you don't have to worry about the menu system really at all. There are some handy features within that operating system, including casting. That's simple to do. And there's 8-point keystone correction, where you can drag the corners to fit your screen. And there's also digital focus. But this thing, I mentioned how bright it is, and this is in the middle of the day with that blind up. It just is incredible, the type of picture that you can get. Now, when we show you it at night, it gets even better, but as you can see, blind up, middle of the day, and it's the best projector that I've seen for performing in any type of ambient light or daytime light. But that also means that it gets even better when you lower the blind and you've got a dark room, because this thing literally just jumps off the screen. It really does look exceptional. Now, the advantage to this is that you're going to get such more better performance in HDR, and you won't lose as much detail within the highlights. And the shadow detail is exceptional. It really is something to behold. Now, I'm hoping it comes across as good as it looks in reality, because everyone that I've shown this to is absolutely blown away with it. They're almost looking behind it, thinking it must be some type of OLED TV. It's amazing. The menu system on this projector to change the picture is basic yet comprehensive, and I actually quite like that. I don't like necessarily being confused by a menu system, and this is very simple and very straightforward to operate. Even a novice could do that. As is usual with this type of projector, they sit pretty close to the wall. For an 80-inch screen, you need to be 6 inches away from the wall, providing you're at the right height. A 100-inch screen will be 9.8 inches, 120-inch of 13.8, and for just 20 inches, you'll get a 150-inch screen. Now, although I've said a lot about the brightness of this projector, brightness can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because if you don't get the same type of contrast within the colors, then it's pretty much lost, and you can end up with quite a faded image. This doesn't suffer from that. SDR content is exceptional, whether it be a bright room or whether it be a dark room. In fact, sometimes it feels almost too bright, and you may even want to dial it back a little bit. I found that HDR content was where this was at its exceptional best. It certainly provided one of the best experiences watching HDR content on any laser projector that we've tested. One feature which not many of these type of projectors have is 3D support, and this does do an exceptional job of handling 3D content. Myself personally, I'm not a great fan of 3D content. I do tend to suffer from a little bit of ice rain. However, when I tested this watching Avatar, it was pretty impressive. Didn't seem to be any loss in color or brightness, and it worked brilliantly. What about gaming? Well, we popped it into game mode, and this is where you're going to get the lower input lag. The advertised input lag is 30 milliseconds in 4K and 17 milliseconds in 1080p. Now, we tried both of these settings, and in all honesty, I couldn't really tell any difference between the two. They seemed almost identical. But the gaming experience was fantastic. On that big screen, it is something to behold. It really is an awesome experience. Okay, so I'm going to begin to summarize now. SDR content, cable TV, sports are absolutely fantastic with this projector, as is 4K movies, and HDR content is brilliant. Now, the purists out there will say about the black levels during the HDR content, and the contrast is just not as good as what you'd see on something like an OLED. But what I would say is that the elevated brightness and the just punchiness of the colors almost acts as a compensation for that, and so therefore it still seems brilliant. The other thing that I just cannot believe is how good a picture you get when the window is open, the blind or the curtains are open. It is just the best that I've seen, as I mentioned earlier, on any projector. So guys, my thoughts on this projector are that yes, it's a little bit hefty price tag. There are some things I would improve. I'd definitely improve the remote. I'd get a backlight on it. And there are no energy saving settings that I can see, although I never use them. So that's not really a fault. I did say right at the beginning that I would try and find fault. And I have to say, I struggled.